Hello everyone, my name is Anderson. I am the developer of the Complete Save System plugin with thumbnails. Thank you for the interest in this plugin and feel free to contact me on Discord. My informations are in the video description and call me so I can add you to the server I'm creating on Discord to troubleshoot and find new implementations for this plugin. Also, if you want to contribute to plugin, feel free to fork the GitHub repository and create a pull request. I will gladly give it a look. So let's go. To get our plugin working, we need to go to three simple setup steps before you can start building your all-safe system. In this video, I will guide you through those first three steps, showcase some of the functions, and help you understand what is needed to design and implement your own safe system using this plugin. This plugin relies on Common UI, a plugin developed by Epic Games and widely used in many AAA titles, including Fortnite. It's a safe dependency, so there is no need to worry. You just need to enable it and use it in your project. You need to enable the Common UI plugin. You might need to restart the editor quite a few times during this process, so please don't be worried by that. So to begin, let's go to Edit, open Plugins, and enable the Common UI plugin. Then restart your project. Now go to Project Settings. You will see the Common Input section and you will need to make the changes I'm showing on the screen right now. You will need to change the input data to the input data here in the first section. Make sure to not select the generic input data, since that's the plugin default. We'll be using our all version for the Save System plugin instead of the one that comes with the Common UI. Next, go to the platform you want to configure and change the controller name to generic as shown here. Finally, go to the controller section and add the two files provided by the Save System plugin. Now go to the general settings and change the game viewport class to the Common UI one. This is required for the Common UI plugin to work. You'll be asked to restart your project at this point, but let's hold off for now. We still have one last thing to enable. Now search for Substrate and enable the Substrate Materials option. You will see a warning saying that this is an experimental feature, but just ignore it and restart your project. We need this in order for the materials for the buttons on the UI to work properly. And that's it, we are finally done with the first step. Now, let's create a game instance and set it in our project. A game instance in Unreal is a class that persists across levels, allowing you to store data like player progress or settings that shouldn't reset when switch ends. We'll use this for the Save System plugin to handle loading across different levels. For example, when you try to load a game from a main menu to a playing level, it will work because of the game instance. The Save System plugin provides a base class for a game instance. So all you need to do is create a game instance that inherits from it. If you already have a game instance in your project, you can simply change its parent class. But I will show you how to create a new one from scratch. Click the New Blueprint Class button, go to All Classes, and search for Parent Save Game Instance. Once created, go back to Project Settings, then go to Maps and Modes and set the Game Instance class to the one you just made. Now for the third and final step, open your player controller class. This is where we'll implement an interface. If you're not familiar with interfaces, they are basically like a class protocol. You define functions in the interface, and any class that implements it must provide their own version of those functions. It might sound a little bit complicated, but it's actually pretty easy to use. Go to the class settings, scroll down to interfaces, and implement interfaces. Search for saving controller, then click add. Remember, you need to do this in your player controller class. You still need to implement these functions to make your save system work, but we will back to this later. Now there's actually one last thing you need to do, but please stop saying, "Oh, you're right. This is actually a fourth step," because you just need to drag and drop something into your scene. It's not actually a step, We just need to drop an asset in your scene. You need to drop the save and load manager to your scene. This is in the plugin content folder. If you don't see this folder, go to the settings and click enable show plugin content. Then navigate to the complete save system folder and open the core folder. There you will find the save and load manager, which you need to add to the scene. Now that we finally made this setup, we can start working in our own save system. As I said before, this plugin is made to help you to design your own save system, handle all the complicated stuff so you can focus on the save system design. So if we check the save and load manager, we will see that it handles a lot of tasks, including capture the thumbnails. If you enable its default option attached to player camera, this will make the thumbnail be captured with the player camera view instead of the camera that is already in the component. So if we go back to our player controller, we will see those four functions of the interface that I mentioned earlier. We have the update settings, the load game, the create save game, and the create saving slot. For those four, two are needed to make a save system that works, and two are optional. One of them you might not even use, that is the last one. So the load game is actually an event, and the create save game is a properly function. You will see that it needs to return a parent save game object. So this is the class we will store our save data. That's how save system works in Unreal. So let's create a new class that will inherit of this. So blueprint class, go to all classes and search for the parent save game. So as you can see, the parent save game here. Now we will add the stuff we need to save inside of this class. I will only add a transform variable because I just want to save the player position in this demonstration. Then we will, in this function, create an object, a save game object, choose the class we made, and then get the data that we want to save from our player. For this example, the player transform. As you can see here, I'm setting the player transform and getting the player pound to get its current location and get the actor transform to save it to use later. And here we go. Now I will return the object I just made from the class we just created, and this is done for the create save game one. Now we need to implement the load game event. So we will have this game save game object. We will cast it to the class we just created, to my save game. And now I can get the transform here and set it to the player location. So let's go get player palm and set actor transform to go to the location we saved before. I just forgot to connect the pins, but I will go back to this later, don't worry. And now there's a very important step. We will need to get the saving component and call the finish loading function. If we don't do this, the game will be stuck in a loading screen forever. So if you have this bug, it's because you forgot to call this function here. It's very, very important to make this work. So as you can see, I just forgot to connect the pin before, but I made this now, so it's okay. And we are done for saving and loading. But in order for us to check if this is actually working, I want to use the pause menu that I implemented in this plugin. This is not mandatory. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. So we'll create a widget of the class DableBP pause. And I will use a function called enter UI mode that I made as a helper for this function. I will talk about a little bit about it later in the video. So now we can save the game and load it. I will try to save, move the player to a different position and load to demonstrate that this is actually working. So let's load the game. I click resume it before. Yeah, let's load the game. And boom, we are back to the position where we saved. So this is it. This is actually all you need to do to make your save system work. Now, there is two optional stuff that I will talk about, which are first, creating different save thumbnail saving slots if you want to use different data, and then using the setting systems that I made. Because sometimes you want your settings to be saved differently from your save games, and this is very important. So we will get to our save and load manager, and we will check this override save slot uh, variable. And then we will go back to our player controller class, and we will go to the create saving slot function. As you can see here, we will receive an index, check if it is automatic or not, and the path to the thumbnail. This is important because we save the thumbnail as files, and we use this path to retrieve them. And now we need to go to the save as underscore save slot, and you can change the stuff here in order to make this work. So if this is it, if you want to change the thumbnail, the not the thumbnail, actually the save slot in a way that is very different for the way this is implemented now, those are the steps you need to follow. Now I will explain what you need to do to make these setting systems work for you. So in order to make our settings work, we will need to first add more cases to this. So as you can see, there's only resolution here in this screen, and there's this warning that this is just a showcase. So we need to add new cases to the add-on. To do this, we'll go to our plugin folder, to types, settings, and we will add a new case to the e underscore settings. So as you can see, there's only resolution here, and I will add a show FPS one. I will not implement this in this video. I am just adding this for demonstration purposes. So now we need to go back to our player controller class and go to our update settings event. In this event, we can see that we have our old and new settings, and they are a map. We can use this function I'm showing here for each in settings that I made for this plugin. And we can go through each key and make a switch to check which case is this. So for resolution, I will now implement a code that will get the value pin on the R4H node. And we'll use this to set properly resolutions. As you can see here, I made a switch on this. And we have each one of those cases, and in each of them I will add a console command. So let's see. I will use a console command to change the resolution for each one. Here is a quick explanation. So we will use this for each and setting macro that I created for this plugin with the purpose of navigating this map. So in this map, the keys are going to be that e underscore settings enum we just made, and the value is going to be the value we set up in the settings screen. So with this, we will be able to determine which change we need to do in our system. In this case, I'm using the resolution key in order to get its value and doing a switch in the string value in order to determine which resolution I want to run in a console command. And now the next step, we need to set up the response of this. So we go to widgets, settings, and WBP underscore setting slot. And here we can see all the things we need to add. For example, here I just added this vertical box with all the buttons and also this text. So here there's a text saying resolution, and this is very important. I made a horizontal box with buttons of the class setting button. So what's the difference between this class WP underscore setting button? It has a value and a setting. So here you can see the value is 720p, and here our setting is resolution. So if I want to add, for example, I will create a new text. Let's just duplicate this, and I will move this here. Let's just change this guy to show FPS. Let's see. Boom. Now I want to actually duplicate this guy here. And here I will change the buttons inside it because I just want two of them. Yeah, and this one, the value actually will be yes, and so will be the label. And the setting is going to be show FPS. And for the other one, the setting is going to be show FPS, and the value is going to be no. So here, content, and no. So as you can see here, and if you want to go there to our core in our saving component, we will also notice that in settings graph, we'll have this default settings. So here, if I want to add one more key, the show FPS is going to be no by default. So let me show you now. We will have those two here. And now if we go to the settings, we will see that we have our show FPS here. And it's not freaking working. Oh, piece of crap. What the heck is going on? Show FPS, value yes, value no. Okay. Oh, here we go. Graph. Set settings, map buttons. Okay. After adding those buttons, we will need to go to our graph and we will go to the map buttons. So here we will add the other buttons we just made, which will be called it's the resolution button 6 and 7. So instead of this, I will rename this to the FPS button and the FPS button underscore 2 in order to make it easier. So after adding those buttons here, we need to add them to this map. And here we go. Now our widget should be properly updated in order to demonstrate what we need. Let's see. So here, because I overrided my default settings to make the no as the default value, we will have this selected to no. So in order to know if this is actually coming here, we will do this. We will go back to our player controller, first person, blueprints, oh here, our player controller, and we will get this here, should go breakpoint. Now, let's just click on this one to yes and apply. So here we have our first key is actually our resolution, and we can't see our value here, but if we go here and blueprint debugger, and let's select our player controller. And now I will have to cut this too. Oh crap. This freaking sucks. Okay, I'm back here. So here we can see that we got our resolution. And this is the resolution we were on before, the 720p. But now, if we got this one, is actually the one we made here on the new settings. We need to show the show FPS is actually yes. So it's going to be here. The key is going to be show FPS and the value is going to be yes. We can't see it now here because this is a macro. So with this, we are basically able to implement our own setting system. part of our tutorial, we will overview some useful stuff, just like some functions, macros, and a class and an interface that can be really useful. So when you are implementing your all save system, you might need to use one of those useful getters to get, for example, the saving component, the player controller as a savable, the interface, or the parent game instance. Also, when you call the finish loading function, as demonstrated in the player controller, you can just use this function here, which get the saving component and call in the background. It's something very simple, but it can be useful because it's cleaner in your blueprints. As I mentioned before, we have this macro to use in the settings to navigate this map of string and and if you want to use the export say textures function in order to save images you're creating in runtime, for example, I just created this plugin on the first instance because I was making a game where you can use a camera to take photos of the world, and by doing this, you create the images in runtime, and I couldn't find a way to save it. So this gave me the idea to find a way to make it, and I realized this could also be used to create thumbnails for a save system. So if you want to save images you generate in runtime, you can use those nodes here. So the export texture async can receive a render target or a texture 2D, and you need a name for the file. After that, it will asynchronously save the texture to a file. So on success, you will get to this node and you will get the path. You can use this path to save. So for example, in our implementation of the thumbnails, we just save the path of the thumbnail. This is very important because you can save a string, but you can't save an image generated in your runtime. So this will be go to your computer. You're actually exporting a file. This could also be useful if you want to make a gallery function or something that you can export a print. This is a Unreal default, but I will put it here because it's very useful. You can delete a file using the path here. So I use this when you delete a slot to delete the file so you don't use a lot of useless space in your computer. But in order to make an image be displayed on your screen, you need to transform into a material. And this node receives a path and creates a material. You can see here that you can change the brightness because sometimes the images will be darker than they were when you're saved. So you can make the brightness bigger here or smaller if you want to for some reason. And then you have the material here. You can use it on your UI. Okay, talking about UI, we have the UI mode, which is basically, as you can see here, a node that I made that receives a widget, and we'll set the input mode to UI only. We'll show the mouse cursor, and we'll add this widget to viewport. Just because this, again, it's cleaner, and you can exit UI mode the same way you go back to your input to game only. If for some reason you have a game that use game menu UI input, by default you can change it here. Okay, so and on the common UI we can detect which kind of input we are using, and sometimes you want to show or hide things depending on if you're using or not a gamepad, so this function is useful. And you also have the set focus for gamepad here, which basically only will set the focus to the widget if it is for gamepad. So basically it checks if you're using the gamepad, and if so, you set the focus. You might be wondering why the heck would you need this, but let me just show you here. For example, here in saving. So, okay, we use it here because when we enter okay, I'm just deleted this player controller for this example here, so please ignore it. But when we enter in the loading screen for the first time, if we're using a gamepad, it will focus on that button because you need the focus to navigate. But if not, you just don't need it, so you will actually don't need to set a focus. It's pretty useful. And talking about something useful by UI, if you go to your widgets, for example, in the save screen, as you can see, there is an interface with this function update input type. So if you use this interface, common input listener, the save and load manager will pass the information here. So every time the input changes, you will be notified here. This can be pretty useful when developing widgets. Okay, so going back here. Okay. Now, finally, I think we are done with this part of the helpers. You can check it here in the documentation folder. Oh, yeah, here. So please don't put this in our scene or neither this because it's not made for this, okay? Talking about actors. Okay, this is an actor that when you overlap with it, it will be destroyed. Sometimes you want collectible things that can be destroyed, and you'll need to save the information that that thing was destroyed in that save slot. And when loading, that thing needs to be destroyed. So I made this class called destroyable actor, which is overridable, and you can create like your own implementations of it. And if you call the destroy function, it will basically save it in the game instance and add to a list, and will do a lot of stuff on the background to make sure that this will be destroyed if you save this information then load. And sometimes you need some specific objects to have some information on load. For example, you need to set the state of something that will change when loading. And if you use the begin play event, there might be the risk that the game was not loaded yet, so you won't have the data you need. So basically, you can implement this interface, I underscore loadable, and call this event here, and you have your save game here, and you need to cast it to the class you use it and get the data to this specific object. So basically, this is all. Thank you for the interest in the plugin. I will be adding my Discord information on the video description, and you can call me, and if you want to be part of the community I'm making for debug and helping. This plugin is completely open source, so if you want to change something on it, you feel free to explore its GitHub and create a fork and maybe even making a pull request. Feel free to contact me if you need anything. I offer 100% of my help. This plugin is free and was made to help the community. So if you want to help back, you can just give me a like, a subscribe. And if you really want in other ways, like donating something, please call me on Discord and I will be very happy to share my information. Okay, bye bye.